Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by Gerry Hamilton, CJ Vogel, and Hank South. Time for this week's edition of the Recruiting Breakdown. And Gerry, anytime we bring you the Recruiting Breakdown here on the channel, it's brought to you by our good friend, our long-running sponsor, Mark Saunders.
The only insurance agent you'll need to protect all your stuff, that's Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders. That's everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV if you got one of those. Call Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders' office today, 512-218-8571. He's also a Texas alum, which means you'll be in great hands with his over 35 years of experience. Again, if you're in the Austin or Round Rock area or entire state of Texas, he's the only insurance agent you'll need. Give him a buzz today, 512-218-8571.
All right, so this edition of the Recruiting Breakdown is going to be almost exclusively talking about spring practice visitors. And Gerry got started off with a bang on Monday. Landon Williams Callus made his way to the 40 acres. What's the latest there?
Yeah, arguably the top running back target on the board out of Richmond Randall, record-setting running back, 5'7", and that 3/4, 5'8", and about 196 pounds of just explosive everything in terms of being a running back. He was on campus yesterday. He has not put out his official visits yet, but we believe that's going to be June 19th through 21st. Going back to what he told me when I was at Richmond Randall a few weeks ago, but he has not released those dates yet. I think people close to him think he's got the dates. He's just waiting to release them. But that's big news to get him on campus on the first spring practice. Obviously, he was at A&M with the Blue Bonnet relays over the weekend. But this is a guy that Texas has done a really good job with. When I was at Richmond Randall a few weeks ago, the head coach at Richmond Randall commented how very good of a job Steve Sarkisian, Jabbar Jaloop did on that school visit with Williams Callus and his family and his circle in January. So it was really big to get him on campus. We know he really likes Texas. We know he really likes Texas A&M. He will go visit Ohio State, a couple others, LSU potentially. I think the odds are that he ends up in the SEC, but in the NIL world, we can never go 100% on all those things we say. But I like where Texas and Texas A&M sit for Williams Callus, but to get him on campus the first day of spring practice, I think was really key. And obviously they'll have more running backs on campus soon, as we will talk about now.
Hank, yeah, Landon Williams Callus, not the only name at running back for Texas, and they're going to have some more running back visitors throughout the next few days.
Yeah, I mean, breaking news on the recruiting breakdown, Noah Roberts, who's one of the top-ranked backs in the country, he's actually expected in at Texas this weekend for an unofficial visit. So, heard it here first, but, he's been one of the guys we've mentioned most often in terms of kind of the top tier running back targets. A little bit obviously different of a frame measurements than Landon Williams Callus, obviously, but kind of more in the Derek Cooper mold, 6'1", 190, really explosive running back, and really good pass catcher out of the backfield as well. He's a national recruit. He's out of Arizona, so got you thinking of Bijan Robinson, Christian Clark, if you want to go down that road. But he is expected on campus this weekend, and that's going to be a national recruiting race for Noah Roberts. I think Michigan's involved, Oregon's involved, Notre Dame's involved. I want to say Ohio State's involved as well. Probably a handful of others I'm not even mentioning, but to get him on campus early in the spring, that's a big win for Texas. And then a couple other visitors expected at that running back position. And really, this is probably your running back board at this point, including Landon Williams Callus as well. Lathan Wisington this Friday. We've talked about him a bunch lately. Really fast, similar to Noah Roberts. He had a track time earlier in February, 10.5 in the 100-meter, which obviously is blazing fast. But he's got the frame, he's got the vision. And obviously that pass catching ability as well out of the backfield. You watch his tape at Waco Midway. I mean, he's just blowing past people like it's nothing. So on campus Friday, that's probably going to be Texas. He's more. I think all of his official visits right now at this point are in-state schools. I want to say Texas, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, and in either Baylor or SMU. Jerry, you could correct me maybe. But he looks like it's going to be probably an in-state battle to keep him in the Lone Star State for Lathan Wisington. And then next week, a guy we've mentioned as well lately, a guy that was just the Under Armour MVP at running back, Sarad Baker out of DeSoto. He's expected next week for an unofficial visit. He has his official visit locked in as well, I believe, as do all these guys outside of Landon Williams Callus at this point. which, we're expecting to get scheduled. But Sherrod Baker, that one I think is safe to start projecting Texas or Texas A&M for him. I don't think he's going to end up at another school besides those two. And Jabbar Jaluk's making up a lot of ground. I think A&M probably has the edge in Sherrod Baker's mind, but I think Jabbar Jaluk is really impressing him and his family on that last visit, and I'm sure they'll get a lot of FaceTime with him come next week. And some I've been told, people close to Sherrod Baker actually prefer Texas for him. So we'll see if they can maybe, start gaining some momentum in his recruitment this spring.
CJ, you've got intel on a couple of visitors, one in-state visitor and one from out of state.
Yeah, two from the out-of-state actually coming up this weekend. Obviously, one's on campus today, one's coming in tomorrow. We'll start with Joachim Guda, who's on campus this afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, if you're watching this later in the week. South Paulding linebacker is taking a Texas official visit June 12th. Look, he's in the heart of Georgia. Georgia's going to be a very difficult team to beat here for one of the top in-state linebackers. And again, if you're Kirby Smart, I have a hard time believing you're going to let another top in-state linebacker walk on over to Texas, given the Tyler Atkinson recruitment a year ago. So look, Texas getting him on campus in the spring, very important leading into the summer official visits. The other is KJ Green out of Stone Mountain in Georgia. The 6'4", 230-pound edge rusher will be on campus Wednesday Wednesday going into Thursday as well. Again, a top 75 kid, very talented edge rusher. Both will be on campus this week to see a spring practice at Texas. And then I have to mention Peyton Miller, of course, another familiar name to those who have watched the recruiting breakdown over the last 3 or 4 months or so, even further than that. But he was recently at Clemson for their first spring practice of the spring as well, while he will be back in Austin for his first visit to see Texas on the field in the spring. Of course, we know Peyton Miller and Texas have a fantastic relationship. Kyle Flood, Steve Sarkisian have been very heavily involved here. And now Texas will get another opportunity to kind of slow down some post-visit buzz from the Clemson side of things and get back to where they need to be in this recruitment.
All right, Jerry, let's go back to in-state offensive lineman, a visitor from Columbus, not with the last name Schobel. What do we have here on the offensive line?
That's a good one, Jeff. Keon Hemphill Woods out of Columbus, won state championship his sophomore year. He is a offensive and defensive lineman, but at the college level, he's going to be an interior offensive lineman, a Goddard. Well, I'll have to say this. He got offered on his unofficial visit yesterday. And speaking with two sources, one of those being Keon himself, he plans to set up an official visit to Texas late this week, get that date locked. And we think, looking at his other official visit dates right now, to 12th through 14th of June is where it's likely going to be. He has Cal scheduled the 5th through 7th right now, and he has Auburn the 19th through 21st. The interesting thing about Keon Hemphill Woods, he has really come on with colleges after the January evaluation period in the in-person meeting phase of the recruiting process. You've had schools like Texas now, Florida, a number of others have offered him within the last week or two. So his recruitment is kind of really starting to ascend in front of our eyes after when you think it would. Most of those recruitments ascend in December and January, but he's even been a little later. But he's a guy who's very athletic, very aggressive on contact. And the guy, again, started as more of a defensive lineman and has transitioned to an offensive line recruit playing for Columbus there on I-10 and where you turn off on 71 to head to Austin. He had a great visit yesterday. Kyle Flood offered him. And in texting with him this morning, once again, he's excited about scheduling this Texas official visit, which we think will be June 12th through 14th, unless he shuffles some dates around. Really talented lineman to be added to a really talented 27 cycle in state.
All right, CJ, I know you've got a little bit more intel on another visitor to talk about visitors on campus this week.
Yeah, one guy that was on campus for the first practice was Casey Curry coming in out of Sierra Canyon, California. Look, the high school teammate of Richard Wesley, this is the second time in 2 months that he's been on campus. He was on campus originally for the January 17th junior day. Now back to watch the Longhorns in action for their first spring practice. And why is that significant? Well, Curry is only the number 2 defensive line prospect in all of the 2027 class. He speaks often with Richard Wesley, and now that relationship with Kenny Baker, Alan Clark, now Will Muschamp as well is really starting to blossom. Look, no official visit is set for June 5th. At the moment, that is something that obviously will be very important for the Longhorns, but 2 unofficials in 2 months should speak volumes to the interest that he has in the Longhorns, as well as what Texas is viewing him as on their priority board at the moment. Really important prospect. And right now, Texas, starting to make some moves in that recruitment out west.
And Hank, one decision upcoming where Texas is going to be mentioned as one of the finalists for a national prospect.
Yeah, and it feels silly to even talk about decision announcements at this point in time with so much to come with official visit season and even final negotiations before early signing day. But a big announcement is set for Saturday, March 14th, and that's Honor Falave, I think I'm saying his name right, Johnson, out of Southern California. He is announcing his commitment. He is, I believe, unanimously considered the number one ranked athlete across the board, a guy that can play both sides of the ball. I think he has probably a higher ceiling at safety is what most view him as. Really rangy. I think he was clocked at 22.76 miles per hour this past season, 6'1", 190. So, I mean, kid can fly. He has some really insane running back highlights as well. So, major target for Texas. But at this moment, we don't believe Texas is going to be the pick. They're on his final list. I think they will have a hat on the table. I think most are projecting USC at this point in time. Oregon's also involved, a handful of others. But this is probably one that Texas isn't going to just sit back and say, okay, congrats, we'll see you later. They'll probably stay after him, try to get an official visit in there for the summer scheduled. He was actually expected for an unofficial visit to Austin on March 28th. Would imagine that's probably not going to happen, but crazier things happen in recruiting. Kids can commit, and then we see James Johnson commit to Georgia. He flips to Texas 2 weeks later. So we'll keep an eye on that visit. Wouldn't expect it at this point, but maybe later down in the process. But for right now, Honor Falave Johnson, we think is heading elsewhere besides Texas.
All right, Gerry, you're going to get the last word on this edition of the Recruiting Breakdown. But before you do, one more time, let's thank our long-running sponsor here on the show. It's our good friend, Mark Saunders.
Yep. Give Mark Saunders a call for all your insurance needs. He's a Texas Allstate agent and a Texas alum. Everything from your home car, boat to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV. If you got one of those, call Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders' office today, 512-218-8571. He has been a longtime sponsor of On Texas Football. We've met him at a couple of events. He is a guy that On Texas Football will put their stamp on. You can trust, and he'll do the best work for all your insurance needs.
Gerry, we'll close this out talking about official visits. We've crossed the 40 visit threshold, at least the visits that have been scheduled that are scheduled to take place. Where do you think the final number is, Gerry? Where do you think it's trending right now?
Well over 50, because we could sit here and run down, if we were doing a 30-minute show, we could run down 15 other guys that may schedule official visits to Texas. And with the scholarship numbers going to 105, I think that's also going to push up your OV list a little bit. So I expect there to be over 50. Now, will all those guys make it to campus? Certainly not, because some guys will commit before their Texas official visit. So I think at the end of the day, maybe it's between 48 and 50, but we'll see. But I think scheduled OVs by, I don't know, let's say early May, will be in the mid-50s. And by the way, I just wanted to add this. I know that the KD deal, NIL deal with Nike came out. For all the prospects that watch us, you don't DM KD for NIL deals.
Yeah. Actually, Gerry, you were going to have the last word. CJ, do we have some breaking news here that you want to mention before we get out?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, look, we're monitoring another 2026 prospect for the class, right? We mentioned whenever that February signing day concluded, we thought Texas was completely done when they added Elijah Ali, the defensive lineman out of California. Well, there's a 2026 linebacker prospect at the first spring practice, and I think that caught most of us by surprise. But Isaiah Stokes out of Zachary, Louisiana, was originally committed to Louisiana Monroe, did not sign either in the first period and the second period. He is uncommitted, unsigned at the moment. He was on campus, and look, with the way that you are able to now take developmental prospects, kind of fill your roster with guys that you see have tools and traits that you might like down the road. That's one that Texas is at least eyeing right now. So not saying it's a done deal, but it did catch all of us by surprise seeing Stokes on campus on Monday. We'll certainly have an update next week, and we'll monitor that over on ontexasfootball.com.
All right. Thank you, CJ. Thank you, Gerry. Thank you, Hank. Thank you guys for the knowledge and expertise as always. As CJ said, if you want the latest recruiting intel, the guys are dropping it over to ontexasfootball.com. If you get over there right now and sign up using the promo code OTFOG, that'll get you 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for $39.95. We are heating up in terms of recruiting coverage as we gear towards summer official visits, so you do not want to miss out. Again, the promo code is OTFOG, and that'll get you 1 year of access at ontexasfootball.com for $39.95. Make sure that you also like this video and that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way, whenever we drop a video or we go live, you're not missing any of our Longhorn coverage. For Gerry, for CJ, for Hank, for Matthew behind the scenes producing it, and the entire On Texas Football staff, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until next time, hook 'em.